This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to New York Island.
William, good morning. Actually, we're doing a coffee weekend version of the show as opposed to the usual Friday night happy hour. You can see my coffee cup says, "How do I take my coffee? Seriously, very seriously, because that's what I need to actually get moving in the given day." So, cheers to you. Good morning.
Cheers, Joann. And it's not coffee at this end. I have already had my pot of coffee starting at 4 o'clock this morning. But
Yeah,
but this is
you're on a different rhythm than I.
well,
Than I am,
this
sure.
is seltzer water. It's more mid-morning seltzer water in my friend the Potter's coffee cup.
All right, excellent, excellent.
Here's
So,
here's to the people, and welcome to the show. Now, Joann, one thing that the statistics show us, we've been at this now for a couple of months, and enough shows, and we may have as many as like 1,500, 2,000 people who will view this
mhm,
talk
mhm.
we're going to talk about and present, and and. Uh, and as we do, we can look at the statistics of how long they stay. So
Right.
so
How
so
long do they
here's the
hang
thing
out
is
with us?
so here, if you've hung with us now for some 30 seconds to a minute, then there's a good chance you're going to stay with us for quite a while. So please
Oh,
stay with us, and also subscribe to our channel, and share with your friends. And please, if you like what you see, please leave a comment. And if there's anything else you would like to talk about, leave a comment.
oh, listen to that. What a lovely preamble, William. You've been rehearsing.
Oh,
I, I,
I,
I'm, I'm
I was
like barely
ready.
awake enough to even do that.
I
That's
was ready.
cool.
Okay,
Well,
so
William,
what do you got for us this morning, Joanne?
okay. So about a week ago, I think it was after our last talk. I can't remember when it was. I decided I was just getting too down about everything, and I decided I was going to take a break from. I was gonna give myself a break. And I have given myself a break this week from watching news and stuff. The things that kind of put me over the end of the cliff a little bit. The first one was just the complete morass that is the presidential campaign at this point. I mean, just the whole thing going on with Biden and people, the editorials, and it's just like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and it was just too painful to watch. So that was like one thing. It kind of feels like everybody's beating up on your old senile grandpa. It's just like, and you feel sorry, and then you're also just like, are we really, is this where we're really at, for our presidential campaign? So that was one thing. And then the thing that so I was like, I need a break from this. I can't deal with it. And then the thing that really kind of sent me over the edge was the Supreme Court ruling on immunity. I kind of like, when that happened, I was like, oh, I was already like, oh, I guess I just, God, I don't know if I can listen to this anymore. And then the Supreme Court ruling on immunity happened. I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm I'm pulling the plug. I need a break because the Supreme Court stuff, the presidential campaign stuff, it's like annoying, it's embarrassing, it's all these things. But the Supreme Court stuff, I find truly frightening. I get frightened, and that's where I was like, I can't believe that they made this ruling about immunity. I mean, it felt like, there were several moments during Trump's presidency when, things would happen like, oh, it's unprecedented. He's doing this, he's doing that. And he kept on the goalpost kept moving for what was unprecedented. I feel like we're with that with the court. We had, in a lot of ways, in people like my age group, unthinkable to have Roe v. Wade overturned. That's like something. I was born the same year that Roe v. Wade was passed, and so it's like it's been part of my reality as a young woman, as a woman, my whole life, right? So it's kind of like that was a really big moment. And I also feel like as time has gone on, the court is just that goalpost of, like, not goalpost or whatever, that measure of where we're at, and that or it keeps on getting pushed. And for me, the immunity ruling was another one of those moments, because it was just like, wait a minute, are we? And listening to Sotomayor's, excerpts from her opinion, it's like, are we like, I mean, everybody keeps on saying it's 1938 in Germany, and I know that sounds like hyperbole, but with that ruling, I kind of got frightened. So I know you've read it. I know that you're way more. So I'm looking forward to this discussion to understand it better, frankly, because I didn't go read it. Frankly, I was kind of like, I've kind of been taking a break. So, that's where I'm at this morning, drinking my coffee, happy to have a chat about any of these things. If there is any positive news, we're happy to hear that too. but I'm not expecting it. I'm still a little bit in my I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet around news. I'm on a crash diet. I'm just kind of like, withdrawn a little bit. But here I am
you're
talking to
withdrawn
you.
from politics.
From politics, yeah, just from what's going on right now in our federal politics. Yes, I'm taking a break.
I understand that, because I've spent the last week, 2 weeks or more fully concentrating on my last writing project, trying to bring a book to fruition. And I'm up every morning and I just simply work on it all day long. And I'm really not thinking about this stuff.
Right.
I mean, I do think about our coming talk, what the subject's going to be. So I kind of tune into it a little bit during the week and think about it. But until we actually sit down here and push the button and start recording this, I really have not also been thinking about politics a whole lot. However, this whole subject of presidential immunity is just an amazing subject. This is just another blatant political decision by the Supreme Court. This is Bush v. Gore all over again. It is not such a, I don't want to say prostituted decision as that one was. Because they themselves, we laughed at once before, said this decision cannot.
This can't be used as a precedent.
So they essentially so they did that, right? And Bush v. Gore, and so we got Bush instead of Gore, instead of really going back in and fully recounting all the ballots and everything and whatever it might have taken. And who knows, Bush may have still won. I mean, that's still a possible open question. But even still, but here we are with this court.
I thought they went back and counted.
Now, what we have is
they went back and counted the ballots, though, and determined that Gore had one. Just for a point of okay.
Okay. But but if we really look at the entire election, there are all kinds of, I mean, I wrote an entire article about this one time, but hypothetically, if Gore had won, and it was like, the most boring 8 years the country had ever suffered. But in any case,
I'm all for boredom at this point. I would love to be bored. Yeah.
But back to what's happening with this whole Supreme Court, and looking at the Supreme Court generally, and specifically this decision on presidential immunity. Now, okay, so when I said, okay, this is just like the Bush v. Gore decision, we have to look at the basis of this decision, in that 3 members of this court worked on with the Republican operatives that brought Bush v. Gore to the Supreme Court and obtained that decision that the Supreme Court installed a precedent. So here they're doing it again. Now, okay, what did they do this time? Okay, just like it's when they said they didn't have to say this can't be quoted as a precedent. They just simply referred it back to the court, back to the district court. So what they did is with
instructions, though.
No, not really. If you not really. I mean, in terms of the instructions, they give the most broadest guidelines. Now, here's the thing, Joann. The Supreme Court, all 9 of them, were sitting there on January the 6th, a block away from this insurrection that was taking place next door in Congress. They are not immune to the news. They are not, immune to the reality of the history that has taken place around them. And now they could very well have used the reality of all of that and just simply said that what took place there under the definition. In other words, given this set of hypothetical facts, this court rules that it was not immune behavior, that this was not official.
Right. They didn't
this
need
was
to have
seeking.
a trier
It was
of
such
fact.
an easy, clear decision to be made on the facts that this was seeking re-election. This all had to do with re-election, and it had nothing to do, with operating the presidency. But see what they've done now in going through this decision, they've set up this whole new kind of system as to what are official acts and what are other things, and leaving these things,
All this ambiguity.
all of this ambiguity, and they've kicked it down the road, and essentially they have done so in a way so that Trump is saying that he is wanting to go back into court in New York and assert that immunity.
But didn't he do? But he did all that stuff with Stormy Daniels before he was president. That was during the campaign before he became president.
Exactly.
So how is that? Can't be a presidential act.
Okay. Well, here's what's going on. John. Let's take this one step further. Again, without really getting into the details of this decision, because unlike I've not read the decision. I've looked at the summaries of the decision so that I think I have a grasp of what they said and why they said it and what they were doing. But by and large, what we are seeing is an implementation of the unitary presidency. I mean, that's really what's going on, because that's really what took place in Bush v. Gore. They installed a unitary president there. And look what happened during Bush v. Gore. I mean, my God. I mean, look at all of the executive orders that were issued. I mean, we had, don't even go there.
Well, I mean,
everything that happened there. Go ahead.
Just to play devil's advocate, I mean, Obama also issued a lot of executive orders.
Oh,
too.
no.
I mean, but it ushered in a whole era of executive orders, whether Democrat or Republican.
Well, they particularly under Bush, under Cheney, Bush Cheney, under Bush Cheney, they implemented that the president was above the law, and not only was above the law, but had full use of a large force of military force that is directly under the Security Council of the president, and can operate anywhere in the world and do all kinds of stuff, and so that became the power of the presidency that Kavanaugh, Roberts, and Barrett, to a certain extent, she worked on a case or two. She was not as directly. Those guys were down in Florida working on it. I mean, they were activists, but in terms of, but they are all members of the Federalist Society,
right,
which exists to implement the strong federal government, and in today's world they see that in its most powerful form as being a powerful presidency. So in all of these years, especially since the Bush years, we've seen this transfer of power from Congress to the presidency, in whatever form it takes, whether it's presidential orders under them, or just simply in the case of Trump, just refusing to obey the law. Jacksonian refusing to obey the law. But now, if I may, just a bit longer, then I'd like to hear what I was thinking about something, and this is getting to these people who claim to be originalist. What what they really
A
are,
joke.
not really originalist. If they were originalists, they would be looking to the power of Congress as being
Mm-hmm.
representative of the government. That this is the people's government. These are the people's representatives.
If you really were
And,
cared about what was in the founding fathers' heads, then you
right.
would be, yeah, exactly.
And the president is the one person, along with the vice president, that the people elect directly. All of the people in the country, not the states or the that are elected to represent the people as the head of the military and to make sure that the laws are executed or executed faithfully. That's the oath. All of that's changed because we're like ancient, we're like the Roman Republic where we're beginning to want to appoint a dictator, to come in these troubled times and take over and execute, this powerful presidency is what they're believing is in, and so in that
What's their
context,
argument for why a powerful presidency is better?
well, I mean, there's all kinds of arguments for it. I mean, it's just like it's basically you're unencumbered by Congress. You can just basically
Right.
get things done. You don't have
You
to
can
go to
get things
Congress
done.
and
Yeah.
get a law
Mhm.
done because, my God, you may not get it. Who knows? But if you've got the power of the presidency behind you, but so what you have to have though are incidents to get Congress to release the purse strings and turn loose of some money here or there to pay for these things. Um, but back to where I was though. So what we now have are these operatives from Bush v. Gore coming in and now sitting on the court because
Mhm.
Bush appointed both Kavanaugh and Roberts to the Court of Appeals in Washington D.C.
Mm.
and
Okay.
and later they were elevated to the Supreme Court. But looking at that, what we have there are these Federalists who includes Thomas and others on the bench who are looking to establish this, and so therefore that's how you have this whole idea of presidential immunity, right? So I mean that's where it comes from. They say can't do the job without presidential immunity. That's really what they're saying here. It's like inherent in it. Well, where is this originalist stuff? If originalist constitutionalist, it's not in the Constitution that there's any kind of an immunity or anything like that. There's stuff there about impeachment. So if we have that, if that's the argument, then let's go back and look at what was going on at that time. And I thought about this, Joann. Jefferson was elected president over Burr, Aaron
Mhm.
Burr.
Right.
In that election, they both ran for presidency. And in those days, the one who got the most vote was president. The one who got the next was vice president. So they tied, and it went into the House of Representatives. I mean, it tied in the Electoral College, and it
Oh,
went into the
wow.
House of Representatives. And on the 39th ballot or something like that, it finally someone gave the one vote switch so Jefferson became president and
I had
Aaron
no
Burr
idea that was
became
that
vice president.
close.
So
Oh my
now
God.
you
And
have
didn't
to
Aaron
imagine.
Burr end up shooting Hamilton?
Yes, during the presidency. Okay, here's the thing. While Aaron Burr was sitting as vice president, he shot Hamilton in a duel. And he shot.
Was he immune?
Okay, yeah. So here's the question: Was he immune? He was the vice president. Okay. He was defending his honor because of an article or something that Hamilton said that Burr is a dangerous man and can't be trusted because Burr wanted to leave the vice presidency and become governor of New York. I think he was a consummate politician. So anyway, and because of that, that's what he was challenged to a duel over for having said that in a private conversation. So I mean, this is what this duel was fought over. But nonetheless, he was charged, with this duel. And in fact, there was evidence that he intended to murder him because he made statements to that effect. Had it been less foggy, I would have shot him in the chest. Or something. And so you have this case. So should Burr have had immunity? I mean, I mean, later on, I mean, no, actually the case never was brought to trial. Actually, that's the bottom answer there. But later, when he conspired to establish an independent republic in the southwest of the United States, he was brought to trial for treason, and there he was acquitted. And of course, John Marshall, the Supreme Court sat on the trial. I think it was John Marshall, the Supreme Court
Oh, wow, fascinating.
sat on the trial.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting history
So,
right
so,
there.
so if you get into the real history of the time, if you say, okay, what would have happened? Okay, originalists, what would have happened at the time if the president, let's say, which president are we talking about? Was it Washington who would refuse to leave the office? Or, was it, or whatever, if we pick one of them, I mean, Adams, no, I mean, but you pick one of them who refuses to leave the office and did all of the stuff that, that in terms of setting the insurrection and refusing to accept the electoral college, because all of those things took place in those elections as well, and did all of the same stuff that was being taken. He would have been drugged before the court. Well, maybe even as president, but you've got to remember that when Trump was being impeached for these very same acts, and he argued in his trial in the Supreme Court that that if these acts are criminal, he will be prosecuted in the criminal courts. A part of his defense, in other words, a part of his defense of his impeachment was, if these are serious cases, they should be prosecuted in the criminal courts.
And now they're saying, well, now he's president, so there has to be impeachment.
Now I need to have impeachment. So what it is that all of this really gets around to the point is that our government has failed because it is moving toward this unitary presidency in which our presidents have so much power that they impede our freedom, and so it's time for another Magna Carta. In a way, that's when the lords confronted the king and said, "Wait a second, you can't do this stuff." And in a way, that's what's going on. Is that
So let me ask.
I'm sorry.
I agree with that conclusion, by the way. So I'm not disputing the conclusion you just said, but I wanted to go back quickly to because I heard something, because I did break my fast last night of political news. I actually watched Bill Maher, which is kind of political, but whatever. But there was a guy on there who was, one thing I like about Bill Maher's show is he's one of the last few spaces that will bring, conservative and liberal voices together, and they actually talk, which is it's an interesting thing. It's a hard thing to be able to do at this point in time with where our society is, and he does pull it off. But anyway, what I want to say is the conservative voice said that in the immunity ruling, there's like three categories of acts. There's official acts, there's non-official acts, and then the third category is an act where it's like it kind of has a gray. It's an act that the president does that's not necessarily covered by the Constitution. So that's why he was saying Sotomayor's opinion was full of hyperbole, because she says, "Oh, now he could shoot somebody in Times Square and not be held accountable." And he says, "No, under the decision, that third category, it would not qualify. He can't just shoot somebody and not be held accountable." So I just throw that out there because I was like, oh, I really do need to go read the decision. I mean, and understand what's there. I mean, I still, on its face, have huge problems with this decision. And I also recognize completely what you're saying, that this is all about kicking the can past the election. So he doesn't have Jack Smith doing stuff to him before the election and bringing up the fact that he started an insurrection. So all I'm right on board. But I just want to say that the decision itself it sounds like there might be another category. It might not be as horrific as I originally thought it was. That said, I completely agree with you that there's no reason for them to kick this down to another level of court to try the facts. I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to say about the decision before we moved on.
Right. Yeah, they could have ended this.
Yeah.
As responsible Republicans, they could have ended this.
Or they could have just not heard the case.
Okay, so here's an interesting idea. Okay, as responsible Republicans, that the majority there. In fact, I guess the minority would have joined in, so it could have been a unanimous decision. Could have decided that that these were criminal acts not subject to immunity. I mean, we're going to ultimately have to decide this case. We decide today that this is not these are not official acts. These were seeking re-election. All of this. So they could have done that, but they oh anyway
They did not.
they no no
They
no they didn't, and the I don't know. I forget. I was going to make, there was one more link to it, and I forgot the link because I've talked too much. So
No, that's all right. That's
yeah.
okay. That's
So,
okay.
no, go ahead. But anyway, as far as the court is concerned, it's just it's a very dangerous thing because it has become so entirely political. It is just simply another illustration of the failure of this government. It's not protecting us. It's not taking care of us. It's not our government. And so, but it is the court that we have, and
But you said something interesting about the Magna Carta. We need a new Magna Carta. The thing is, this is I mean, I respect a lot the Constitution we have, and the separation of powers, and the way that our founding fathers set up our government. I mean, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect and infallible and should never be reconsidered. I mean, and I feel like, especially when people take this originalist strand, which, by the way, you've pointed out and demonstrated that that's just a convenient argument because they're not really being originalists, which is what I find with people say, I'm a constitutionalist, but well, wait a minute, like what you're doing doesn't make sense in terms of the Constitution. Anyway, all that to say that how likely is it, though, that it feels like in some ways like we're in some sort of vice grip when it comes to really rethinking certain aspects of our Constitution and our federal system. Like you can't do that because it would change the Constitution. I mean, what is the possibility we could actually go to the king and say we need a new Magna Carta? I mean, it feels like people think that this thing is like the Bible, and we can't ever have any real discussion around how to adapt it to modern life or modern needs of the country. The country's needs have changed.
well, the Voters' Bill of Rights
Oh,
is exactly what it is.
I just served that up to you. I didn't even mean it, but
no, that's exactly what is required, is what we've been talking about here now for 2 months. At the end of every one of our talks is the Voters' Bill of Rights. That's what it would take to transform this government. Anything else is piecemeal.
And it'll go back and forth between
it'll go back and forth
back
and
and forth. We'll do it this one. We'll go back and forth, back and forth.
What it will take, it will take the Voters' Bill of Rights is comprehensive. It deals with all of the issues that are interfering with us and our ability to govern ourselves through our representative government, with our vote representing our consent to be governed. And that's sort of where we are today, is that's a complete failure. And so what we have to do in order to transform this government is that it would take the Voters' Bill of Rights to do it, because it would deal with all of these different elements. But more than that, it takes the movement. It takes the movement of young people in this country, and the women of this country to stand up and to make this happen. And if they do it, it can make it happen here. Now, here's the thing, Joann, it can happen here. It can happen everywhere. I mean, this is a concept of government that can work everywhere in other countries, that people make their own policies through referenda, and they elect representatives who deal with their issues as they define them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
and it's
I think
utopia,
it's
but it can be done, and it can be done in this country. And okay, this is July. We have August, September, October, November. We have 4 months. Okay, what can happen in 4 months? And
the implosion of our political system.
well, no,
That's what it
but
looks
what
like.
can happen in 4 months is that as a concept can become can it can go viral essentially if to use the term. And so here's the concept, and you're going to get this on the screen because okay, what can we do? What can we do? I'm not talking about you and me, but I'm
Oh,
talking
I
about
know.
others
Like,
who
yeah,
watch this and have stayed with us
people.
this far. So long, thank you very much. Uh, and but what
Welcome.
you do is to ask every candidate for every elective office in this country, do you support our voters' Bill of Rights? That's the question. It's a simple question. Whether it's for the city council
And give them the link because so
and
they
give
know
them
what
the
the hell
link.
we're talking about.
Okay, now
Yeah.
we'll go on to the next thing that'll come up on the screen. The voters.io, the vote, I'm sorry, the vote.io. Thevote.io is a screen where you can go there and you can click onto it and sign up and click whether you support the Voters Bill of Rights. You can vote for it or not, and also you can get the complete text of the Voters Bill of Rights there. And also, while you're there, in case you're interested, you can get the petition I filed on behalf of the people in this country directly in the Supreme Court, asking that we have the Voters' Bill of Rights. And that's the one more recently, not the one in the past. So there we are.
I love it. I have to say, I mean, like I always think when we talk about, things we can do, it always feels like, oh, what can we do? It's far away and the voters but now, as things have developed over the last few months and you're seeing the degree of truly, I mean, some things that are embarrassing and some things that are truly frightening. The proposal of the voters becomes more and more it feels more and more real, frankly, because you do see a kind of glazed over, I don't know if it's despair or withdrawal or whatever, like what I've been doing for the last little period of time. It's like, well, there's a coping mechanism when a person feels like, well, what, I can't do anything about it and I need to not think about it, or it's a coping thing. But actually, what if there, what about what we can do and I mean, if you lionize the founding fathers so much, right? Like, oh my God, look at them, look what they did. They're like well, then why can't we harness that same sort of energy from our like forebears and propose something, that, I mean, was radical at the time when it was proposed, of course. They were radicals in their way. I mean, they were revolutionaries, they were all these things, right? This is slightly radical too, because I don't think it's radical in the sense that it's like necessarily proposing something totally crazy and outside the system, but it's a radical departure from how we've been doing things.
Yeah.
And I think that is, but it's kind of exciting inside of that, as opposed to just being fantastic. I think it's exciting because it at least proposes something that realistically could start to change where we're going. Because institutionally, where we're going, it's not even just about, I'm going to say this and I'm going to stop, but it's not just about it's not just about the people, in the Trump, the Biden, the whatever. It's about institutionally where we're going. That's what gives me the biggest sense of agita, the sense of unease. Where the institution of the presidency is going, the institution of the Supreme Court. Because you can get pulled up in the personality stings with like Thomas and the flag with Alito and all this crap. But really, what does it say? Those people are just symptoms of a bigger institutional issue that's been at play for decades now. It's been coming to fruition. Yeah. I'm stopping there. Okay.
Well, before I forget it, because when you were talking about the voter.io and having all these websites requires a lot of stuff goes on these websites, but I was imagining at the vote.io that there be a screen there. And it's almost like, if you're ordering new software, right? You're getting new software, and you get to the download place, and you either download the Windows version or the
Or
Mac
the
version,
Mac version.
and you have your choice. So here's the thing: your government has failed. For failing government, Republicans download here, Democrats download here, because it's the same problem, and the solution is the same. No
Oh,
matter
interesting.
where.
It's just a different, it's just a different software system.
No, right. It's, in other words, basically what it is it's the same fix.
Right.
But this is the fix if you're if you're a Republican. This is the fix if you're a Democrat, because there is a difference in the way you look at it. But
Right.
really, it's the same fix. I mean, that's
Interesting.
that's the thought that occurred to me as you were talking.
And would the Democrats be Mac, or would the Democrats be? I think the Democrats would be Macintosh, but Democrats would be Apple, and the Republicans would be PC,
I
right?
don't know. Then you get into the Greens and Libertarians, and and so forth and so on. But all in all, I don't know, Joann. I think that that the only way it's going to happen is that there be a
movement.
a movement, and what form that takes is important, because it can be violent, it can be nonviolent. It can, what is its objective? I mean, you had the whole Occupy movement that had no objective. Everybody was out there ready to occupy, but there was no objective. So there has to be a commonality of that objective, and that is that whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, a Libertarian or a Green, your government ain't working, and it isn't working for you. And what will change that government and give you, no matter what your political persuasion is a fair government, is the Voters' Bill of Rights, because it will transform the government. When that goes into place, suddenly the elections will change. We will achieve that Republican form of government that Benjamin Franklin mentioned as he walked out of having formed a government. And he says, a republic, if you can preserve it, and
If you can keep it, right? Yeah.
if you can keep it, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, well, I know we were going to talk about another topic. I feel like this is a good place maybe to.
I think it's close enough to the end. We don't have to. The other topic, of course, was while we were on the Supreme Court, and I can just briefly move on about this real quickly. I think we've talked.
We can always talk about it in a subsequent.
Touched on it before, but it has to do with the rights of liberty. And one of the things, when I was in Uvalde 2 years ago, I came back from Uvalde with everything that was going on there, working on Texas Brave that we talked about. But at the same time, the Supreme Court decision came down regarding Roe v. Wade, and I was just sort of was distraught by both of these things, and I did what I could in both of them. But in the decision, the abortion decision, I actually filed a petition directly in the Supreme Court on it.
Thank you, William.
Well, the question, I'm not going to get into it because of time, but it's as an exercise of the First Amendment rights of grievance. In other words, I file this as a grievance directly with the justices, not but as a amicus curia brief as to why they should rehear that case. This is when they've issued the decision. Hereby
the Dobbs decision, yeah.
Hereby personally petitions each individual justice of the court to hear his plea, offered on behalf of the women affected by the court's decision in the above captioned matter, hereby asserting that the court is without the jurisdiction or authority to allow the states to deny an original right of liberty. This petition for redress of grievances and following motions are supported by the brief on liberty. And anyway, I'll not
I love it.
get into that, but I made this entire argument there is that the court was in ruling on matters it had no jurisdiction because that was an original right of liberty. Again, if you look back at what the world was like at the time of the Declaration of Independence, I mean, every farmer's journal, every almanac had the remedies in it for an abortion, so that those farmers' wives out there with their 13th child, could decide we just can't feed another one, and so she would take the herbicidal remedy of the almanac, and it was a right of hers. It was a right of all women, and not only that, it was a right of women also to just simply abandon the child, to expose,
to leave it at the like orphanage or something,
right? Just to leave it outside in the weather, and if someone came along and wanted to adopt it, they could take the child and adopt it, but otherwise the child was just left in the weather for the wolves. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say, but that's the reality of the world at the time of that Declaration of Independence. And it was only later in life, after the Civil War, even when the American Medical Association began to assert some political authority, that it was able to get legislation in states against abortions, but it was primarily because of women abortionists, midwives primarily, who performed abortions, and so they were in competition with the men, male doctors, and they got these laws passed through the states. And before then, at the time of the Constitution, and even before the 14th Amendment, that was the state of the world. Those are original rights. You don't look to what the laws were relating to them. These were the rights that existed. They don't need laws to define them, and that's why they were reserved in the 9th and 10th Amendment.
Oh, does it say explicitly in the 9th and 10th Amendment?
Of course. Right.
That the rights, okay, are
all rights not delegated here are one reserves it to the states, the other, which is to the people, the other directly to the people. Other rights are reserved in the 9th and 10th Amendments, and those are not put in there lightly. I mean, that's just the way it is. That those are our rights, and the most primary right of all of this is the right of self-government. I mean, that's the right of self-government almost comes up there with the right of the freedom of speech.
Right.
Somehow the freedom of speech is some way an element of the freedom of self-government. That what we're working toward here and everywhere else in the universe, where someone like us arises to this point where we begin to organize together, is that we organize together collectively for the good, and how we do that and how we improve upon it is really the state of our happiness. Because to the extent we can achieve that, we're not fighting each other, we're not making war, we're not wasting our money, we have self-fulfillment in the things we do. I mean, we all have to take care of ourselves. We all have our lives in a way. How do I live, including how do I work, all of the things that goes into who I am and what I do. But I have a right to that. And Griswold versus Connecticut talked about that regarding contraception. They tried to use the 14th Amendment and say, within the penumbra, of the law, there's this right of privacy, that is protected. It's just the right of liberty of every woman, of every, certainly to avoid conceiving. I mean, my goodness gracious.
Well, it just
How,
seems like it's
how
just
can
such a
how can that
basic
be
thing. I'm like,
anyone's decision other than hers?
I know, but also it's just like it's your own body. I mean, it's your own body. I mean, like, but women have been, I mean, in some ways, especially in conservative religious movements, are to some extent still considered property. And so that's where there's that sort of consistency of thought across, across that realm of this decision and abortion and everything. It really has been a feeling like a woman doesn't really own her own body. I mean, that has been, I mean, especially in conservative religious movements, which is where this all comes from.
Well, the thing is that, see, this is, my whole thing has always been policy. That's
Mhm.
that's my approach on everything. So you have a policy, and here we have a religious fundamentalist minority in this country who have decided that the unborn child is protected by God, and
Mhm.
this is sin to interfere with that pregnancy once it is established. And in fact, it's a sin to even to practice contraception, because that's the whole purpose of sex. So you shouldn't be having sex unless it is for the purpose of contraception. And so you have this whole fundamentalist argument in this country that is seeking to have laws. And in fact, what this whole argument, the difference with Trump on this whole thing is whether we have a national law on this, or do we leave it up to the states? Okay. Uh, but that's just one of the questions that's involved. That's a policy decision, right? That's being made. In China, under the
Oh yeah, the
communist
one child
government,
policy. Yeah,
and initially, before they got rich, they had too many children, and
right.
so they had a policy, and the policy was that
One child.
you could only have one child, and if you became pregnant with a child beyond your one child, you were taken in and forcibly aborted. You know, uh, period. Or and your tubes were tied. Fixed you. So it all
Yeah, not exactly a right of liberty there either, huh? I
so
mean,
so so
so
it's all,
yeah,
so it's all a matter of policy. See, that's why you don't have the government involved in these things.
right,
I mean, just by and large,
right,
because
right.
it's not any business of the government to be involved in all of these matters, and that's
And that's where the
widespread.
libertarian view has always
Yeah,
been too.
I'm,
It's
I
just
mean,
not, yeah.
I've been a registered independent, no registered party for decades, but in terms of taking a test as to where I stand, I probably score, fairly well into the libertarian area. Except I think I have a little more heart than many libertarians. Because I do think that we do have we want a government that takes care of the people that elect it. And I think that's not a bad thing.
William, it's
Yes.
been quite a discussion.
Well,
We're
it's been
powered
fun.
by caffeine and
Well, yep. Uh, and
it's gotten me, I'm climbing back up the cliff I went over a week ago, so I'm feeling a little bit better, but I'm still not sure I'm gonna like put myself on a diet of news again, but this has been a
well,
nice reprieve.
well, I'm going to continue working on my new book on what's it called? Oh,
The one
here
you've
it
been
is.
working on morning, noon, and night?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's
yeah,
that one called?
Universal Mathematics, the
Ah,
language of artificial intelligence.
I love the fact that
Oh,
it is
oh
very
no,
much not political or
this this this
sociological.
is
It
this is a
is
good little book. It's only about 15 pages in terms of the guts of the book, but it has a number of major appendices and so forth. But in any case,
exciting.
I want to get back to that, and that's where I'll be going in just a few minutes as soon as we leave here. But it's always a pleasure, Joann. I
Always a pleasure.
I look forward to this every single week.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Here's to you, Joann, and to the people that have stuck with us all the way through.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much, folks.
Thank you very much. You're troopers. You are troopers.
Absolutely.
And may your consent to be governed never be taken for granted.
Ah, very well. And see you later.
Take care, William. Bye.
Bye-bye.